All right, let's talk about the CM Punk podcast. Everybody's been talking about it. I don't think I gotta put my 2 cents into it too. This was a very enlightening podcast with Ari Emanuel, I think that's his name. If not, I'll just call him Ari. He did an MMA hour, which was surprising. He really helped out Ari this time because he gonna get some views, some traction. He probably will get 1 million views by the end of the weekend. It's a little bit different because the Colt Cabana podcast was so surreal. The language he used, and it was so surreal. And you could tell the CM Punk from back then, the 2014 CM Punk, to the CM Punk of 2024, they're totally two different people. That Punk was bitter, he was pissed, and he was tired, and he was angry, and it was personal because of the whole wedding thing. This one wasn't personal. It was disappointing because you can tell he was like, I don't really want to talk about it. Because he was just, like he just said, it was just disappointing. And I was looking at this like, man. Punk is like, I say this about CM Punk. He knows how to get people talking. He talks about the whole WWE thing. He talks about how that was a 5-day process. And he said they signed on a dotted line about a few minutes before he went out there and showed us up at Survivor Series. I was like, wow. Nick Khan didn't know he had a non-compete clause, and which is just, this is crazy. Nick Khan is the gift that keeps on giving. I tell you, this man is a great promoter. He's a great businessman. He does what's best for business. And literally, he listens to the fans. Like, at first, people talk mad shit about him. And when he came, he was like, no. I mean, it's so real. 2 years ago, it's a 180. The fans hated this man. Now the fans love this man because he's done more good than harm. But again, it goes to tell you, he was behind a lot of the cuts. It was a lot of Vince McMahon doing a lot of these cuts. But it was so crazy. I was so. But the biggest thing from the CM Punk interview was the AEW thing. He talks about the media scrum and all that, but again, he doesn't go in detail with the brawl out situation because the NDAs. He said there's NDAs he signed, which they were true, but there was no NDAs with the Jack Perry situation, which I told a lot of people because I'm like, oh, he can't talk about the situation because NDA, and I believe people were like the Hangman Page situation, but there was no NDAs dealing with the situation of him getting fired from Jack Perry. Because the situation where he got fired for the situation with Jack Perry, because if you fire somebody, you still can't have them sign an NDA for that. Because it's like you're telling somebody, look, we're firing you, but we're not firing you. If you sign this NDA, we're not going to disparage you. We're not going to discredit you and stuff like that. Tony Khan said he feared for his life, discredit this man, and everything like that. And for him to do that, that already made me knew, oh, there's no NDA in place. What happened was Tony might have went to Punk, or some lawyer talked to Punk and say, look, the situation is not good. They're looking to get rid of you. Look, you have a non-compete clause, sign this NDA, and you still get paid your money. You want to sit at home. You can do a couple months at home, and if you want to go, you can debut at the Royal Rumble. And he was like, F that. I'm not signing shit. Fire me. And that's probably what Punk said. That's what I'm assuming that's what he said. Because again, if he did sign the NDA, Tony Khan would have never went on that thing and said he feared for his life. And they never would have fired him publicly like that. Because that's like shaming the guy, like literally putting that guy on blast, like, oh yeah, he's fired. He deserved to be fired. It actually made his name look pretty bad for a little bit until he went back to WWE, but it made him look pretty bad. So I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of fucked up. So, but he talks about the Jack Perry situation, which is the biggest takeaway. Apparently, this was addressed earlier in June or July. And Jack Perry continued to... So Jack Perry had a situation going on about using glass. And he wanted to use glass. Apparently, he cursed out Tony Schiavone, the doctor, some producers. So Punk had to get involved. Punk said, I really don't want to get involved. If I get involved, you're not going to like it. So I think he went to Tony. You need to address it. Tony never addressed it. So Punk addressed it. Which, again, Tony was at the show. And everybody was telling him and stuff like that. And Tony never addressed it. Which is a big factor. It's a recurring factor in this interview. Tony not addressing shit. Tony letting things go. Tony not being the boss. Punk talked to him. Apparently things were good. He said take it to Wednesday. And it was squashed. Nobody was cursing that time. And apparently it was squashed. We go to All In. Jack Perry did what he did. And when he did that, he asked Tony, please, handle that. And Tony's like, what do you want me to do? He told Tony, be a boss. Handle that. That's disrespectful. And I think that's been the biggest problem. It's like these guys were disrespecting Punk openly. Carelessly, openly. And Punk was like, what are you doing? It's okay to disrespect him privately. But you're doing this openly. The Adam Page, the Jack Perry. And it's like, it's so much disrespect how much a man can take. He said, you don't want me to handle this. He talked to Jack Perry. Jack Perry said, what are you going to do about it? And Punk laughed. Kid, I'll kill you. I was like, yo, I haven't heard that shit in a while. And it was like, it was so surreal hearing that. I was like, yo, this man was disrespected openly. And Tony Khan didn't do nothing. Honestly, it was one of these things where you look back at it, Tony Khan should have addressed a lot of issues. Apparently, the whole situation with Cole Cabana came out months before the whole Adam Page and CM Punk promo. And it was like, Tony Khan never addressed it. Tony Khan, that's been the biggest problem with Tony Khan. He's not addressing these issues, and then it blows up in his face. And here we are now. You lost your biggest star because you were incapable of controlling your EVPs. You lost your biggest star because you were incapable of getting these guys in a room and telling them, let's make some money, let's make some business. You're incapable because you have built a locker room full of entitled pricks that don't have to do a damn thing in this business to get a guaranteed contract. Where guys like Punk, guys like Randy Orton, guys like Cena, guys like Batista, guys like Sheamus, guys like even Drew McIntyre, guys like all these old guys, Seth Rollins to a certain extent, have to bust their ass. Even Roman did too. To bust their ass to get these guaranteed monies. Like literally, Sasha Banks was like, I'm going to guarantee money. I'm like, there's easier ways to do it. Like, she wanted to go back to WWE, but she wanted to keep her likeness and stuff. It's an easier way to do that. Compensate. Tell Nick Khan and say, look, if I come back, I'll take a pay cut. But the only way I'll take a pay cut is if I want to do movies and I want to do this, I still want my compensation for that single-handedly. I think Nick Khan will work with that because you pretty much saving him money to get you back. And you giving them a contract pretty much like, oh, you want to do movies? Cool. Just let us know. We'll book it in advance. And write that down in contract. Know your worth, but also know how to negotiate. Don't try to steal the company's money. Try to help the company in a way. Because again, you're trying to help the company, but also trying to help your name to be a bigger star. Because eventually, you do all this outside stuff, it's going to make the company look good because they can promote you. It's like eh, the mentality of these wrestlers today. And I hate to say it, it's part of my generations too. Because I'm a millennial. Is they're entitled and they want guaranteed contracts because that's a safe way to do it. I mean, I do too. But when I remember I was watching Maven YouTube video, go check that out. And he was talking about how they were getting paid by buy rates. And the more you're in the main event, the more money you make. I was like, yo, that would be awesome. Because I looked at that like, yo, that's cool. And I'm like, yo, no wonder these cats were doing that like that. And I'm like, yo, Batista was making bank back then. John Cena was making bank. Because he was in multiple main events. No wonder he got that money. Triple H, God knows, got a lot of money. He doesn't even need to work for the company. He's good. He's set. And that's a cool concept because at the end of the day, that makes the wrestler want to work hard to get to that main event spot. And, you know, granted, they still had to pick and choose because it was politics. But that's a cool concept. It's like the more, and then, you know, sometimes you get the buy rate depending on what pay-per-view you're in and stuff like that. Because I know Maven got a big buy rate for the Survivor Series in 2004 because he was in that main event where it was Team Orton versus Team Triple H, and the winner would get to be GMs for a couple weeks. That was a good buy rate, so he got paid for that. I'm like, yo, that was cool. Even Punk, before they went to the WWE Network, he even talked about how the pay-per-views were going to work. Because they talked about that. Orton did too. Because that was some good money. So, I do think guaranteed contracts has kind of made it a lot more difficult for wrestlers to work as hard to get to that position and work on their character traits, their storytelling traits, their body language, their work. You know, their work rate will always be good because again, in WWE, it's not about work rate; it's about getting over with your fans. And it's just again, WWE is killing it all cylinders, but. The Punk interview was very enlightening. I touched upon the little things in here. I apologize. This video is longer than what I expected it to be, but it is what it is. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a very good interview. I'll put in a link in the description box below. Go check it out. As always, like, subscribe. Peace. Have a Johnson day. I'll see you guys next video.